What's up, Roulette Fools? Brent with AOB here. I'm excited to do a challenge play today. I've got two strategies submitted by two of our members. This one first is submitted by Eric. Okay, and this is hot corner Fibonacci. And basically the way it works, and we have a $500 bankroll and 10-cent units. You go to the last three numbers that hit, 35, and then 33 is overlapping. So then we're going to go 2 and 25 corners. You're going to pick three corners from the last three numbers that hit. If the corners overlap or you get a repeat number, you move down the line till you find a number that won't overlap or isn't a repeating number. Then, once you place those three numbers there, based on the last three that hit, you do the Fibonacci sequence and you stay on those three numbers until you hit. Once you hit, you reset and you go back to placing three corner bets, each corner having the last three numbers that hit unless they overlap or repeat. Okay, so he calls this one hot corner Fibonacci. I'm probably going to rename it something fun by the end of this thing, but we'll leave it at hot corner Fibonacci right now. I don't mind that so much. At least it's not three corners based on the last, All right, there's a hit. So we're going to look at the last three here. We're going to go one corner. We only have one choice there. 13 corner here. I'm going to go, we'll go with that corner. You can choose that corner as well. And 35, I'm going to go up top there. And like I said, as long as the number is in that corner, you can pick whichever corner you want, as long as it has that and doesn't overlap. Okay. So we did this on a live stream. It did really well, although as it should, it kind of got down in the weeds one time. We needed that too. That's okay. So Fibonacci sequence, you're adding the previous two bets together to get your next bet size. In this case, we're going to look at the units. Our first bet on the first progression was 1. 1 plus 0 is still 1. So the Fibonacci sequence, 1, 1. You add those together, 2. And 2 plus 1 is 3, 5, 8, 13. Okay, so we got that one. Our second strategy by Skiff is Fibonacci Hopscotch, and I'll show you that one coming up. Too much Fibonacci, too many things going on, and I don't have my assistant, little AOB. So, okay, we're going to go 2 units on here. So I'm not going to do what I've done in the past that I tried to do in the past, which was same wheel, same time, both strategies. I'm going to have her, she will join me later on this week for another session, and we'll go from there. So these two are very much different strategies anyway. They cover differently. So it's always good to go on the same wheel at the same time, especially with two strategies that are very, very similar in bet size and in the Fibonacci sequence. All right, we hit we're on our fourth progression. So we're going to go 2 and we're going to add 1 unit to this. Go to 3. And something you can do to make this easier on you is when you're at the first base level where it was 1 unit, you can save that as a favorite. And that way, if you keep missing, it's easier to add 1 unit or 2 units or 3 units along the Fibonacci progression rather than what I'm doing. I'm going to have to click on 2 units next, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's hope we get a win here pretty soon. Okay, so we're going to repeat. We're going to 5 units because 2 plus, it was 3 and 2 was the previous 2 unit size bets. That's 5. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 130. No, not 130. That's bad. I was rounding. I have it on my chart here and I put 130 because I was like, let's just make it 130. Let's call it lazy Fibonacci. Oh, we're just getting crushed here. So this is 5. So our next one is going to be 8. And 1, 2, 3. Okay, there we go. We got 8. So I really wish that these had 50-cent unit chips, but they don't, because that would make it a lot easier to, as we start going and adding more and more progressions to this thing. So after 8, we're going to go to 13, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's hope we can get a hit with a new dealer change. Now, Eric says he rarely goes over 6 progressions. We're already there. So we'll see how it goes. We're already at our 6th progression. Let's hope we can get something. And we don't. All right, let's keep going. We're at 13 now. I'm adding 5 units to this. There's too many. All right, 13. The next one will be 34 units or $3.40 if we miss this one. Now, I'm going to probably pull the plug if any of these Fibonacci sequences get up to the 89 units. I will probably stop it right there. I'm not going to keep going and burn my whole bankroll on this. There we go. All right, so now we are going to 13. We're going to go to 21 units. 8 units. All right, we're at 21. Next will be 34 units. So at least we can add a full $1 to it. We don't have to do 10-cent units at a time. We'll add a full $1 plus 10 plus 30 cents on top of that. So it'll be a little bit easier, but we'll get ready to pull the plug if this one keeps going too much longer. And it is going down in flames hard. So we're going to repeat it, add $1 each of these. And then 1, 2, 3. And that's why saving that initial base bet on these corners, because we're only covering 12 numbers, there's a good chance you're going to go through this progression a lot. So saving those 3 bets on those 3 corners, and as soon as you win and you do new corners, just delete that saved bet and add a new saved bet. It'll be a lot easier when you're placing stuff down. Ooh. All right, we're going to 55. 3, we're adding $2 to these and a 10-cent unit. All right, next pit stop will be $8.90. We're up to a $16.50 bet here. Very crucial that you know your progressions and you look at the progression chart and make sure your starting unit size can handle X number of progressions. And on this one, I would suggest, there we go. We finally got pretty deep down in there. So now let's replace our 3 corners. So we got this 17. I'm going to go 17, 19, 12. I'm going to go 12, 9. And the 9's already there. And the 18 we can't do. So 20 we can't do. So we're going back to 31 because those would overlap our corners. And now I'm going to open up my save, my favorites. I'm going to go to the end here. And I'm going to delete that one. And I'm going to save this last one. Now we have that saved. It'll be easier if we don't hit like this to add units to it. All right, so we're going to rebet. Okay, and I'm keeping an eye on the time up there. We are at about 8 minutes. I want to give each one about 15 minutes, and we'll see where they end up. This is one of the ones where you go deep down, and when you do hit, if you go really deep, you can get some really big wins. So, but I think you guys know how I feel about the low coverage systems. I really recommend if you're going to do these 12, 13 numbers like we did last time, the 13 neighbors, these 12 numbers, man, give yourself a ton of progressions and be willing to follow it through. Otherwise, I think you're in for, not a good session, most likely. Okay, so let's go through. 500, you can go pull open our progression chart. We have a Fibonacci progression chart in our Discord server. It also has one specifically for 13 number Fibonacci. So you can it calculates the 13 numbers because we had a lot of people that like that 13 number from Casino Matchmaker. So we have one that specifically you put your unit size in or calculate it out based on 13 numbers. All right, so that was 2. So we're going to rebet and add 1 base unit. We're up at 3. 1, 1, 2, 3. This is our 4th progression. I'm quite surprised that Eric says that he rarely goes over 6 progressions. Typically, sequence doesn't go beyond the 6th progression. I'm going to challenge that and see how many times we go past the 6th progression. I'm going to say, it says typically, I'm going to say more often than not, it'll go past the 6th progression. All right. So if we keep going, this is a 5th progression, right? So that's 3. We're going to click. There's 5. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5. We're on the 5th progression right now. Let's hope we get a hit. I would prefer not to go past the 6th progression. Depending on how these two go, like I said, whenever I can get little AOB to help me, we'll definitely do these head-to-heads on the same wheel at the same time. But having to keep track of these, since they're both Fibonacci, I just really didn't want to. It's just too much of a mess for me. So, okay, there's 3. We're going to go 8. This is so much easier. And it would be so much easier if they get a 50-cent piece in here. But that's okay. All right, we are on our 6th progression here. Let's see if what Eric holds true, what Eric said holds true, which he said it doesn't typically, very rarely goes past the 6. We're on the 6th. It went past the 6 last time, well past it. Let's see if if we can get it here and not go past the 6th progression, but you're only covering 12 numbers. 15. Oof, we needed that 19. All right, we're going to repeat. Now we go to 13, which is 5 more units. Now, if you play pragmatic, when you click your favorites, it kind of does this animated flash, and you have to wait before you click your next one. I absolutely hate it. If you play Evo or Live 88 tables, you can click as fast as you want. It's going to add those bets. It's really silly the way they make you, because they want maybe a fancy animation on it. Screw the animation. I'll take functionality over animation anytime. Boom, we just hit. All right. All right. So that's 17. So we're going to go 17, 20. We're going to go 15. And we're going to go 33, 36. And we get to start all over with our progressions. So that one was at 13, right? 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. So we went past the 6th progression for a second time in a row, but not far. I would expect to go to like 10 to 12 progressions on this routinely, but we'll see. We'll see. All right. So that's our first progression. We're going to repeat our bet. And again, you just keep here. We're at 1226. So most likely, unless we get a couple fast wins, and I won't leave this at 15 minutes. I'm not going to just leave it if we're on the 2nd or 3rd or 4th progression. We'll follow it through on each of them, because the next one's a Fibonacci progression as well. Now on the next one, this Fibonacci Hopscotch, which I'm going to rename that too, because Hopscotch already has strategies out there. And so I just try not to get people confused with what this is. Boom. Look at this. All right. So 2 out of 3 times we have, what did it just hit? It hit 20, 24, 17, 33. Oh, I got 2 units on there accidentally. That's okay. We'll have to add 10 cents back to this thing. Okay, we're at 1324. Let's see if we can get another quick hit. 20, 24. We couldn't do 24 there because it would overlap. We couldn't do 24 here. It would overlap. So we're going to go back to the 20. The 24 we can't do. 17 we can do. 15 we can't do. 33 we can do. Okay, so we're still, that's where we're staying until we win. And this is the second progression right here. We are at 1357. So if we get a win fairly, the next win and we're done. So we'll stay with this until we get a win, unless we climb the progression ranks hardcore, then we'll just pull the plug. All right, so we're off to our 3rd progression here. I'm not a big fan. I think these are fun. You want to just dink around with really low units, and you have disposable of your disposable income. Okay. So these, I don't know. These are always clench strategies. Maybe that's what we'll start calling all these strategies that go deep in the progression routine. We'll just call them the clench family of the strategies, right? So we're going to call these the clenchers. And these definitely fall in the clenchers because of the coverage. All right, we're going to 3 units here. And unfortunately, I did not save like a yokel. I didn't save it. So what I'm going to do, we got 3 there. What we can do really fast if you forget to save it is, if this loses, I'll place these bets with 1 unit on it, save it really quickly, and then we'll go on to 5 units after this. All right, let's see if we can get a hit here. We are at 15 minutes up there. Let's see if we can do. We can get a hit here. 1, 1, 2, 3. We're on our 4th progression. 19 should be a win. Boom. There we go. All right, so we went 2 and 2. 2 went to pass and 2 didn't. Not bad. Okay, so we went 950 for 15, 5 out of 20 losses. So that's what we're going to do. The next one we're going to do is Fibonacci Hopscotch. Let's set that up and get going. Okay, so let's get going here on the next strategy, Fibonacci Hopscotch. This one you need to pay attention. This one takes a little bit more effort to see what's going on. You can choose low or high. We're going to put 1 unit to start. You can choose low or high. It doesn't matter. And this is also a Fibonacci progression here. So pay attention because there's not only this positive coverage, positive progressions, but there's negative progressions as well. So even after playing this on live and even after reviewing my notes, this is still one that I'm not 100% always sure on, but you can play it any way you want. This comes from Skiff. He also likes doing a modified Fibonacci. That's easier. And I like that idea. Basically, you keep the same, right? 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. After 13, instead of having to do it, you go 13, 20, 30, 50, 80, like that. And that way you're on whole numbers the rest of the way. It's easier to add stuff up. I do like that, how it plays out. You know, I've never really gone up that high on the progressions, but we're going to just stick with normal Fibonacci so that we're making sure we're comparing apples to apples. And okay, we're back with the next strategy, Fibonacci Hopscotch. You need to pay attention on this one. This one has multiple different steps on it. So pay attention as we go. It was very complicated for me to understand. We did this on a live stream and it took me a hot minute to going through this and playing it multiple times. But it's not only a progressive coverage system, but it's got a negative progression on losses and a positive progression on, anyway. So we start, you get to choose high or low, 1 unit. Doesn't matter which one you choose, high or low, and you put 1 unit on it. And I'm going to show you what you do when you win and if you lose. All right, so we won on that. So what you're going to do, if you're betting on low, he wants you to take that 1 unit. Now you have 2 units. You're going to put 1 unit on the first and second dozen. Now, that being said, that's how he wrote the instructions. We're going to play it just like he wrote them. You can actually choose whatever dozens you want. So even if you win on 1 to 18 and you notice maybe they're hitting real heavy up on these 2 dozens, maybe you go set. But you can choose either high or low. If you choose high, then you're going to choose a second and third dozen if you win. All right, let's watch how this plays out. All right, so that's a win, okay? Once we win on that, that was at 1 unit, 1 unit, 1 unit. We come down here back to high or low, and we're going with 2 units now. Now, if you make it through those first 2 steps, we're playing completely with house money, okay? We're playing completely with house money at this point. We got our 1 unit back. All right, so that's kind of cool about this. That's why I do like this one. I'm not a big fan of positive coverage or positive coverage systems, progressive coverage systems. But this one isn't terrible because I like that if you can get through those first 2, you're not. Okay, so we lost on that, and that was 2 units. So what we do is we go from there, we're going back to 1 unit, and we're starting our Fibonacci sequence at this point if we keep losing. So we're going to stay on 1 to 18. As long as we lose, we're going to use the Fibonacci sequence right there on just that spot. If we win again, we start over. We're going to go the 2 dozens. All right, let's go. I hope you guys are all doing really well this year. All right, there we go. So that's a win. So we go back to what we were doing, and we're going to go 1 unit on each of those 2 dozens. Okay. So the idea on this one is, let's say you win and you keep adding your units, 1, and then you split it out 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, and you get up there as soon as you lose, you don't keep at that level. You go all the way back down to base level, which is 1 unit, and then you start building from there. Now, that's sort of conflicting because when we were playing it too, he was like, no, we want you to go back, keep the Fibonacci unit. So this one's a little bit, so this one can be confusing with the way he wrote it. And he did a great job on the instructions. And sometimes it's hard when you're writing a fairly complex strategy to get it out right in your head. So totally understand. So he did a great job with the instructions. There's just some things I would love when you guys submit a strategy and it's really complex. Make sure you submit it in our roulette channel. That way I can ask questions. Our members in our Discord can ask questions and you can do clarify. All right. So now that we won on 2, right, we're going to go 2 up here and 2 over here. Okay. So we just keep doing that. We're going to keep laddering our bets 3, 3, 3, and keep going. So I'm going to read you his instruction real quick. Bet 1 unit high or low. If it wins, bet 1 unit on each of the 2 dozens. If you play low, first and second. If you play high, second and third. If second step wins, go to positive progression section. Positive progression, bet on high or low. Your bet size is 1 unit more than it was. If it wins, bet 2 dozens. So you just keep repeating. All right, we just won again. So now we're going to go 3 units. If it wins, bet on 2 dozens like it was at the base level. If it wins, start the new positive progression cycle. If it lost, go to base level. Go to base level if it loses. So if we lose at any point in here, we're going to go to base level. We're not chasing the losses. We're playing here with casino money. The negative progression. If we lose, start the Fibonacci sequence on even chance, the higher or the low. On a hit, get return and spread it between the 2 dozens. You won at 8 level unit. So place 8 units on each one. All right. So what did we just hit here? We hit 3. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, putting 3 units up there now. So if you lose, you go all the way back down to 1, and then you start the Fibonacci sequence all over again. And when you finally win at that Fibonacci sequence, we want you to take that unit level, whatever it was, and that goes to the 2 dozens. Now, I would contend if you go through the Fibonacci sequence and you win and you're fairly close to recovery, maybe you stop. All right, so we lost on that one. So that was at 3 units. So now we're going to come all the way back down to 1 unit. So I consider this one sort of a grinder system. You could get on some good runs, but I consider this one more of a grinder wage system. He has some tips and tricks on the negative progression. When you're spreading return between 2 dozens, you can actually go 1 step down on the Fibonacci sequence, so you have some extra units. In other words, if you're on 1 to 18 and you're going through the Fibonacci sequence, and let's say you get to 13 units and you win, instead of going 13, 13, he's saying you can come back down to 8 and 8. That's our second loss. We count the first loss. This, even though we're going back down, I'm going to go as that was our second loss in the Fibonacci sequence. So instead of going 1, 1, even though we're going down a base bet, we start the Fibonacci sequence as the loss up on the 2 dozens was our first loss at 1 unit, even though it was 3 units. 1, and then when we begin the sequence again at 1, we immediately go to the third progression on the Fibonacci sequence, which is 2 units. Okay, so what he is saying here though is if you win on this one, when you go up to the dozens, you can step back down 1 level in the Fibonacci sequence if you want to. All right, 1, 1, 2, we are at 3 units. But when we did this in live, the graph that you're seeing up there right now was fairly indicative of what it was like when we did it. And darn it, I forgot to reset the clock, but it was fairly indicative of kind of this EKG heart monitor, or climb up, lose, climb up and lose. So I consider this one more of a wager, just a wager strat than anything else. Of course, you can always get lucky. Oy. All right, she's on a nice high run here. All right, we're going to 5 units. So they're both Fibonacci. One has 3 corners. One has, 18 numbers to start. So similar in some respects as far as coverage, but one has 12, this one has 18. And this one stays on goes from 18 to 24. So this modulates back and forth between 18 and 24 numbers coverage. So I do like the idea. I generally speaking prefer to go from high coverage down to low coverage because you can reduce your bet and still keep winning. All right, there we go. So that's 5. So now we're going to stay at 5 and come up here and see if we can get a hit here. He's saying basically though, at this stage, if you want to, we could have put 3 units, stepped back 1 Fibonacci sequence and go 3 and 3 instead of 5 and 5. I want us to get in recovery faster than slower, like we all do. But I do like the idea of getting your progressions back. There we go. So we are near coverage. So that was 5. So technically speaking, we would go up here to 6 units. I think if this were me and I get back, I get a hit here and we're very, very close to that, I probably take this down to maybe 2 units or 3 units. Let's see if he has anything on negative progression. You can skip. He's also saying on the negative progression section, when you lose, you can skip the dozen steps while you're on low tier Fibonacci sequence up to 2 units. So it's a 1 to 1 to 2. If you win even chance, you break even. So what he's saying on if, oh, great. All right. What was that? That was at 6. And that was at 6 units. So we're going to go to the next one, which is 8 units in the Fibonacci sequence here. Now, technically speaking, you're supposed to start all the way out at the beginning again. I'm going to leave it higher. Otherwise, I think we're just going to be here for a very, very long time. So I'm going to stay here because we haven't recovered yet. I'm going to consider our reset. I don't know exactly. I don't recall exactly what he said, but I'm going to consider that we stay in the Fibonacci sequence. All right, here we go. That was 8. We're going at 13 units. All right, we're at 13 units here. The nice thing, at least on this one versus the 12 numbers, is I feel like on the Fibonacci sequence, we have a better chance of not going so deep. But I have played Fibonacci on single higher lows. The problem with Fibonacci sequence when you're playing 18 number coverage is it doesn't get you back into profit like it does if you're covering 13 or less numbers, right? But we'll see how it goes because we're going to take this and then spread. Oh my gosh. All right, let's keep going. 21 units. All right, 21 units is where we're at here. Let's see if we can get a hit. And then we're going to have to go 21 units on each the first and second dozen. So that's going to be a $4.20 bet if we hit this. Let's hope we can so that we can move on here. And we're going to go, you know, we're at 17 spins already. So about 13, 14 minutes. All right. Phew. We hit that. So we're going to go to 21 units up here. And you know what? I am going to back down to 13 units. Like he said, we can go step 1 down in the Fibonacci sequence. I like that so that we can protect our bankroll. And at this point, $1.30 should get us into session profit right here if we can hit this. If not, we're going to take that $1.30. If we lose this, we're going to go back down and we're going to go back to $2.10 or 21 units. Rough going. Rough going. All right, we're going to 21. And that's why I do like on the higher progressions, stepping it back because it's more of a conservative mode than being hawkish on it. All right, we are at 19. We're going to give this 1 recovery here, and that will take us roughly right around the 15-minute mark here if we get there. So let's see what this ends up being. We're right about 12 minutes. So we'll give it, let's see if we can get a win here. Oh my gosh, that ball did some funky bounces. All right, so we're at 21 units, and we are going to go down to 13 units again. And again, you can leave it if you want to be more aggressive. You can leave it at the 21 units when you split it. But based on how she's been hitting us, she has not been doing well for us. But I think this is pretty indicative of how this strategy is going to go. All right, there we go. All right, so we hit session profit. We are at 13 minutes. I'm going to keep going because we have a couple more minutes on this strategy, more than I thought. So we're at 13 minutes. Let's keep going here. We got up there again. So we're starting all over at base unit. We're at 10 cent. And so far, our biggest bet was $2.10. If you recall in the other one, we went to what, 21 units for each. So we went to a $6.30 bet, maybe even higher. I don't think, maybe we went in higher. Did we go to 34 units? I don't remember. Maybe we did. All right, that's a loss. So that's one loss. We stay here on the Fibonacci sequence. I might even consider on this, instead of doing 1, 1, 2, 3, 8, let's try it. I would just do the Fibonacci sequence, drop off the first one and start and go 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. So I would probably do that rather than going 1, 1 if you lose on this very first one. So we're going to jump ahead because this would actually get us 10-cent profit, right? Rather than just breaking even. Let's see if we can grab this. Nope. Okay. We're going to 3 units here. So we've been going for 14 minutes now. So as soon as we hit here, we'll give this a chance to recover. So as soon as we hit here, this should bring us back. This will bring us back to even. Okay. This will bring us back to even and we'll call it. So as soon as we recover, if we lose on this one, then, and we go up to 5 units, then we won't recover when we hit that one. Because we'll be 11 units down. Oh, should switch over to high. All right, here we go. 3, we're going 5 units. So if we do win this one, we are going to split it out and we will stay here until we get at least our profit goes back up to 90 cents. So let's hope. But yeah, I would definitely, in looking at how she's rolling, I would definitely switch over to high. But with my luck, as soon as I switch over to high, I don't know. I am not a huge fan of Prague tables. I like being able to save bets or pre-make my bets. I hate the way that slides out with the tiles, but I don't know. I just feel like I've been very unlucky with Prague tables. All right, so that was at 50 cents. So we're going to move that up here. And we're going to see if we can get this hit because we're now actually... We're going to step down one level because we're only 10 cents away from session profit. So I'm going to step down. I would actually contend, I would actually go down to 2 units, go all the way down 2 levels down because that would put us in session profit. So again, I would protect my progressions, but there we go. We were able to get the hit on it. We ended up with $1.10. The other strategy ended up with, what did we end up on the first strategy? We ended up with $9.50 on the first strategy. We ended up with $1.10, but we ended up with $18.20 wagered. So considering that we did a 10-cent unit bet and we ended up with $18, if you're looking to wager, and for your tier rewards or whatnot, I'm not a fan of wager only strategies. So for me, this strategy right here is definitely a no-go. The other strategy, hot corner Fibonacci, I would play that with extreme caution, but of the two, I definitely take the other one over this one, even though the bets could get larger over there. This one is just too much up and down. It's too little for too much effort, but that's just my opinion. Give it a go yourself, see what you think. All right, that's it on these two here. Let me know in the comments if you have 2 strategies you would love to see go head to head with each other. Jump in our Discord, send me a DM with the details. I would love to give it a try. Post it. We have a roulette channel. If you want to see a head-to-head, post it in there, and I would love to give it a go. All right, that's it. Be good humans. Remember, progressions are life, so really protect those progressions at all costs. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.